Night Shift Whispers. On the outskirts of a dense forest, nestled in a small village, stood a sturdy old wooden stilt house. Its dark brown exterior and rusty brown tin roof were weathered by the elements, but the house remained steadfast. A separate building stood behind, serving as a kitchen and bathroom. A few meters beyond the house, a dense forest loomed, its secrets hidden beneath its canopy of leaves. On the left, a clear stream flowed, its source deep within the forest's embrace. On the right, a small herb garden flourished, its aromatic scents wafting through the air. As I entered the house, a sense of stillness and mystery enveloped me. The creaking of footsteps on the wooden floor echoed in the silence, amplified by the many preserved buffalo heads that adorned the walls. My mother had told me that her parents used to hold religious ceremonies with buffalo heads as offerings. Despite the presence of the ornaments and the way my grandparents used to practice their animistic beliefs, the place was actually quite nice for a vacation. Although it might be a bit disrespectful to think of it as a vacation, since the reason we had come all the way from The Hague was to mourn the deaths of my grandparents. It sounded strange, but that's what happened. My grandparents were found dead in their bedroom, their eyes wide with fear and their mouths agape. The incident had occurred 5 days ago, but they had only been discovered 2 days later by a concerned neighbor. They had been buried yesterday, and I had never had the chance to see their faces, not even once. My mother had never returned to her hometown since marrying my Dutch father. Until now. It was said that their relationship had been strained because their marriage had not been approved. Strangely, none of my mother's 4 siblings had come to greet us at the house. It was completely empty and desolate. I wondered what we were even here for. To visit a grave without meeting any family members? But perhaps I could still count this as a vacation. After all, the stilt house had electricity, even though there were no electronic devices like TVs inside. And the silence was palpable, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves in the forest. Our bodies were still tired from the long journey, and at 7 p.m., my parents told us to go to bed. Michael, my younger brother, slept in the front bedroom. My parents slept in the middle bedroom, and I slept in the back bedroom. As I lay in bed, listening to the gentle sounds of the night, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The house seemed to be alive with its own secrets, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Rather than not knowing what to do, I decided to paint my nails. Fortunately, I had some old nail polish from a previous vacation in my backpack that I hadn't used yet. My nail polish was a light pink with silver glitter. Painting my nails could help me relax for a moment. Until then, I heard the sound of my younger brother knocking on the door in a hurry. "What?" I answered lazily. Michael opened the door. He immediately gave me a grumpy look. "Did you knock on my door for fun?" he accused. I shrugged indifferently. It wasn't me. Who else? Michael didn't believe me. "Can't you see what I'm doing?" I showed him what I was doing. He still didn't believe me and went away grumbling. "Watch out if you're being mischievous again." Not even 15 minutes later, Michael came back with the same accusation. this time, I couldn't ignore it anymore. If his room door was really being knocked on, we had to make sure who the culprit was. You come in first, then I'll help you peek from a distance to see who the culprit is. I'll finish painting my nails first. Michael still insisted that I was the mischievous one. Fine, we'd know the answer soon. Only 4 more nails to go. I finished them quickly, but there was something strange about the color of my nail polish. It wasn't pink anymore, but red. Why had it turned red? I tried to observe it more closely. Wasn't this the color of blood? And when I tried to smell it, I was taken aback. The acrid smell of blood immediately wafted into my nose. I spontaneously screamed and threw that small bottle. The bottle rolled on the wooden floor, and the liquid spilled, soaking the brown floor. There was no doubt, it looked very much like blood dripping. My father, mother, and Michael came to me after my hysterical scream. "What's wrong?" my mother asked as she pushed open the door to my bedroom. Trembling with fear, I showed her the nail polish bottle lying on the floor and the results of my manicure. My nails had been pink, but the last one I had painted was blood red. Just then, Michael complained about the mysterious knocking on his bedroom door. My father was not a superstitious man, but he allowed Michael and me to stay in his and my mother's room. Michael and I dragged our mattresses onto the floor of our parents' room and tried to sleep, despite the strange events that had just transpired. However, only a quarter of an hour later, the bed that my parents were occupying shook violently. "Hey, what are you doing?" my mother accused us. Michael and I shrugged, our minds still trying to make sense of the situation. "Earthquake?" he guessed. I had scanned the surrounding objects, but only the bed had shaken. We all exchanged fearful glances, unable to conceal our terror. "We need to leave tonight," Mom declared decisively, and immediately began packing her bags. Fortunately, we had rented a car and driven ourselves, so it was easy to leave at any time. We encountered a few minor dramas on our journey to the city. For example, the car engine had suddenly stalled without reason, a tire had burst, and a buffalo had darted in front of the car and been hit, but when we checked the spot, there was nothing there. But that didn't matter. The important thing was that we had escaped and arrived in the city, where we rented a hotel room to rest. Despite the strange incident the previous day, we agreed to forget about it and enjoy a week-long vacation. There were many interesting tourist destinations in the city, and we hoped to heal there. 2 days later, we received devastating news. My mother's eldest brother had died suddenly, in exactly the same way as her grandparents, with bulging eyes and an open mouth. Our vacation was once again disrupted, as we had to attend the funeral. No one dared to express their anxiety openly, but I knew that everyone was starting to worry about the strange deaths. There was nothing we could do but try to forget the strangeness and act as if nothing had happened, in the hope of comforting one another. A week later, my family and I finally left the city to return to the Netherlands. I had thought that it was all over and that we could soon resume our lives. However, shocking news greeted us at the airport. My mother's second elder brother had died in the same way as his parents and elder brother, with bulging eyes and an open mouth. The extended family was devastated. We consulted several spiritual experts to find out what was really behind all of this. To our surprise, all of the experts gave the same answer. They said that my grandparents had long been performing a ritual of worship to a demon in the form of a human with a buffalo head. They had to make offerings every 6 months, including a life sacrifice. Basically, my grandparents had to feed the buffalo demon every 6 months. Now that it was no longer being fed, the buffalo demon had eaten my grandparents and their family. This meant that the misfortune was not over. More victims from her family would fall, eaten by the buffalo demon. We asked if there was any way to stop the buffalo demon. The spiritual experts said that there was. We had to kill it. But how? There was a shaman from the same sect as my grandparents who was said to be able to lure the buffalo demon to eat bait. However, the only person who could kill the buffalo demon was Maria, the first daughter of my mother's second brother, because she was the next target. On the day of the ritual, after sunset, we gathered at Maria's house. Various offerings were set up in a special room. Maria sat alone, waiting for the buffalo demon, with a dagger in her hand ready to strike. Meanwhile, we waited in the living room. The shaman sat cross-legged in front of us and chanted mantras with his eyes closed. He was accompanied by his large black dog. For dozens of minutes, the shaman chanted solemnly. Then, suddenly, his dog howled in a terrifying voice. We panicked, but the shaman told us to be quiet. He said that the buffalo demon had come. We were ambushed by various feelings of anxiety. The shaman closed his eyes again and chanted mantras. Then, suddenly, a strangling sound came from the shaman's mouth. His eyes bulged and his mouth opened wide. A moment later, he convulsed and collapsed. We panicked and tried to wake the shaman, but he was no longer breathing. His dog also experienced the same thing almost simultaneously. They both died. Panicking, we rushed into the room, afraid that something had happened to Maria. However, the scene we encountered in the room was astonishing. Maria was sitting calm and unharmed. Beside her, a human figure with a buffalo head was busy eating the offerings. Before we could speak, Maria explained calmly, "I'm fine. Don't worry, this buffalo ghost is eating. And from now on, I'll be the one to feed it, replacing Grandpa and Grandma." So the shaman, Rianti, Maria's sister, couldn't finish her question. Maria nodded calmly. The shaman was a liar. Ghosts cannot be killed. He was also a buffalo ghost worshiper. He was actually trying to make me a sacrifice. But he was too slow. I sacrificed him first. It's okay. As long as our family is safe. Isn't that how life is? We eat first, or we will be eaten. Since that incident, Maria has decided to leave home. No one knows where she went, and she has asked not to be looked for. Rianti, her only sister, was adopted by our parents and came with us to the Netherlands. They only had a father before and are now orphans since their father passed away the week before. Maria never gave any news. But we know that as long as our extended family is still doing well, it means that Maria is still doing well out there and regularly feeding the buffalo ghost. This doesn't mean that everything is over, but at least for now, we can still go on with our lives, thanks to Maria.